This show will concentrate on one of the greatest institutions in the world, the black woman. In order to get the real feelings and perspective of our sister, we went to her. A group was brought together with as many differences as likenesses, but held together by the common thread of the black experience. Another institution was added, Sister Lena Horne, who can, from first experience, speak about survival if you are born a woman and black in this society. Our woman has borne us, nurtured us, and saved our race, and in the process, she often got the worst of it. As a unique institution, the black woman remains.
I believe the role of a black woman is to work for a just society, in the kind of a society in which children can grow up without fear, in which they can hope. Don't you think so?
Really, to boil it all down, black woman is the mother of civilization. That adds it up. She is. She's actually the mother, that's it. She's the mother of the earth. She bears forth the fruit to fertilize the soil.
I agree.
I agree. I think we have overlooked the fact that black women have been for the white nation. They have sucked us dry. That we have nursed the children, we have fed them, we have done everything, put all our energies, all our work into working for the white family. And now it's time for us to take all our strength, all the strength that Monahan says we have. We're supposed to be the strongest women anyway. It's time for us to take all our strength, all our milk, all of that, and put it into working for the black nation.
I'd like to touch on something here. I'm glad you brought this up. And I don't know what reaction this is going to get because a lot of people jump at me when I say it. But unfortunately, all people in this country, black people and white people, are subjugated to the same system of media, are subjugated to the same systems of communication, are subjugated to the same conditioning. And that's something we definitely have to reckon with if we're going to ever get through any of this stuff. Moynihan, that's sort of the name that's associated with that word matriarchy, definitely has to be dealt with.
I'd like to deal with him face to face.
Right. I think that unfortunately, a lot of us, black men and black women, believe in the myth of that matriarchy. And I think that belief engenders a lot of negative things. Number one, it says that matriarchy is inferior to patriarchy, which is a whole thing right there. You see that patriarchy is a sort of natural or divine order of things, which is not so. Two, that black men have believed and internalized the myth of white womanhood in this country and Anglo-Saxon impositions, so that they place us in relation to where white women are.
There's two things a woman, I believe, being a black woman and a very proud black woman, can do for a man, make him or break him. And then you take into consideration how the black man has been berated by the white man. His woman, adequately couldn't have the luxuries of another woman born the same just like her. This man has to, black men have stood by for a very, very long time and been humiliated by the system. He can't get the job that this fella can get. And you must understand that his wife might have to go on welfare. He has to stay in the humility of that. He has to watch the plumber duck if the welfare worker come in there. You understand me? He has always been made to feel he's below the next man. So you must take into consideration. Now black men are learning, that their part. They're beginning to feel like a man. They're getting their dignity and their pride back. So he needs a woman to keep on pushing him. Vice versa, when you say about, in the system, this system has destroyed, actually, the black man. Because everything that we've ever done, there's no part of this country that you can say, if you touch that a black man didn't bring it in here. Everything that they built, they've never been able to share with it. I don't even want to hear that. What society have done, just took our black men and destroyed their manhood. That's what they've done. They aided and abetted.
I'm certainly not in disagreement. I'm in 200% agreement with everything you said. I think we all are.
But mightn't it be, like, we understand that what the brothers are going through now, as you say, the cultural national, but mightn't it all be very revolutionary, and you might be the better woman for understanding that at this point they need you to walk a few feet behind and get their manhood together. So if it takes that, then I'm going to do whatever the brothers need now. I mean, I've been doing a lot of research on slavery and talk about wiping out and ripping off our people. They did it to the black man. They did it. And if it takes, at this point, a cultural nationalist say, you got to walk 4 paces behind me, baby, slow. If that might be revolutionary, I'll do that. I mean, I'm going to do anything at this point that's needed.
Is that revolutionary? How revolutionary is it if one half of us is in condescension and a kind of almost fear saying, walking 10 paces behind you, saying that in order for me to, quote, regain my manhood,
maybe that's
I have to deny you your
right
peoplehood.
No.
Is that revolutionary? I think we
I'm
really have to
saying
explore
if somebody
that.
really needs that, I don't. We just have to do whatever we need to do to help
that
these
says
black
to me
men
that
get
you
together.
really believe that there has been this thing called a matriarchy that, as Moynihan
I
put
believe
it,
we've been ripped off as a people. Black people have been ripped off.
No, we haven't been ripped off.
but you're not dealing with the internal thing
No,
that really...
I take that back. Black people hasn't been ripped. Black people have been raped of every ounce of human things that's entitled and due another human being.
Right.
Do you know how we
that's what
really
it
can't
is.
get this together? And really, because to me, this is very alien, and we shouldn't be sitting here talking about defining something which has been defined for us. We should be about redefinition. And I don't particularly care whether I walk alongside, in back of, or in front of. That is going to have to be defined for me by my man. We know too well what our being is all about in the United States of Europe. We have to deal with that. That's why I started out by saying, are we talking about changes within existing systems? Because that's all we're talking about. We're talking about a black nation within a European nation. And if we have to deal with that, then let's redefine our own culture and stop being a subculture. Stop worrying about the man. That's deifying him. Who is the man?
I agree with you, except... Sorry, go ahead, Amelia.
No, I just wanted to mention in terms of cultural nationalism and what, brothers feel. I don't know, if it's all true that brothers would like you to walk 10 paces in back of them. But I do know that we do have a definite role. And until we play our definite role, they cannot play their definite role. And our roles are complementary. Complete and make perfect that which is imperfect. And that if we go about being the inspiration of the nation, and again, educating the children of the nation, and participating in the social development of the nation, that it would be no problem. And when we say we should not discuss things, we start out to discuss them. Like, why raise Moynihan if he's invalid? Don't raise him. Don't talk about him.
I really believe this very strongly, that as much as we would all like to say that and struggle every day re-examining ourselves to do just that, that we are, unfortunately, very much a part of that dominant culture. It does affect us. Now, if it didn't affect us, we wouldn't be fighting crackers. And that's the truth of it. If it didn't affect us, we wouldn't get mad about what Mr. Moynihan writes. And if it didn't affect us, certain people would not react to the myth of the matriarchy in the way they do. And that's why it has to be exposed and destroyed. It's not that I really want to spend time talking about Mr. Moynihan. It's that I think that we have to get rid of the illusions, we have to get rid of the poisons, we have to get rid of the lies. And one way to do that is expose it and dissect it.
Another way, if we create a new life, a new value system, and live it as an example.
That's what I'm talking about. That's it.
That would probably be the
That's
best
it.
way. Because then people could see it as a living thing and not as a theory. Because what we need to do is to reestablish a new value system. That's what black people need, a value
and
system.
exactly, and how do we go about that?
We go about it the way you go about daily work. First of all, you decide what you want. You establish your value system, you start to live it. And the people in your community, you start talking to your neighbors. You get yourself together first.
Exactly.
Then you get your community together.
We're in agreement.
Then you get your neighborhood together.
We're in agreement.
Right. And then you can move on out. But in the beginning, you got to make sure you got yourself together.
Right.
You know,
Okay.
you have to start right here.
But I think we ought to be sure we understand what she's saying. Now, this relates to what you said earlier about the black nation, right?
Exactly.
I'm not sure I understand what you mean by the black nation.
I mean, black people's lives, being self-determining, defining yourself, naming yourself, and having political power. We're a nation already without political power and military power. We're a cultural nation without political and military power. We're a nation, you know, in captivity by another people, a people who have a different, totally different culture than we have, who cannot even relate to the things that we relate to. That is the problem. And as black women, we have to be the inspiration for the nation, for our men. We have to start out into the community educating the children, educating ourselves. Because once we educate ourselves, the children will become educated, because we are the ones that teach the children. We are the ones that decorate the homes. We are the ones that are with both female and male children. We are the ones that the children look to as the image in terms of their daily education. So it is important that we don't get our values mixed up and feel that we have to educate the world when we haven't first educated ourselves. It's still always a self thing.
Indeed.
I mean, the world will relate to us once we can relate to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think we are afraid of definitions and afraid to set guidelines because we might have to live by them. If you stand up and say a black woman should do this and that, then you might have to do that. But if you say, well, we don't have to say anything, you know, we can just do it. Do what? So like everybody can do their own thing. But every society needs a value system. Every society has a criteria in which they live by.
And we live
need
by
one.
everybody else's.
Exactly.
Right.
We should have
I'm a cotton field in the burning sun. I'm the lash of a wind when the day is done. I'm a mother taking her son from the ends of a road. What he's done, God don't know. I'm the pain my mama felt while she was breaking that corn, 'cause the boss man made her work till the hour I was born. These are the hands that fix the food with a smile, for in my mama's lap she rocked the boss's child. Do you want to see this line? Then listen to what I say. Do you want to see this line? Look in my face. I'm a soldier on a battlefield, far away from home, who's fighting for something he's never known. A ghost from my past guides me from day to day, and to know I'm going right keeps me on my way. Do you want to see this light? Listen to what I say. Do you want to see this light? Then look in my face. Hey.
poem for a lady whose voice I like. So he said, you ain't got no talent. If you didn't have a face, you wouldn't be nobody. And she said, God created heaven and earth and all that's black within them. So he said, you ain't really no hot stuff. They tell me plenty sisters take care of better business than you. And she said, on the third day he made chitterlings and all good things to eat and said, that's good. So he said, if the white folks hadn't been under your skirt and been giving you the big plate, you'd have had to come uptown like anybody else. And she replied, then he took a big black greasy rib from Adam and said, we will call this woman, and her name will be Sapphire, and she will divide into 4 parts that Simone may sing a song. And he said, you're pretty full of yourself, ain't you? So she replied, show me someone not full of herself, and I'll show you a hungry person. That's the poem I did for you.
Yes, I think I should probably tell you, you know, maybe other people don't, that I had that said to me in 1942. I worked at the Howard Theater in Washington, and a black band leader told me, there's millions better looking, sing better, and it hadn't been for you being picked by white folks, you know, you couldn't make it. And it stuck with me a long, long time in my life, and I'm still trying to learn how to sing, but I say inside every black woman, there's an Aretha screaming to come out.
You better believe it.
And that's me.
That's, yeah. You know, I don't think it, you are the most imitated singer, black or white as they say, in the world.
I think that happened because I was picked to, like the man said, I was picked at that time to be what they thought a black woman was like. I was picked even before my own development, and when they picked me, they found they had a tiger by the tail, because they really didn't know what was inside of me. And I was made to look like someone, not me. I was made to look like I had to learn to sing, and I was not allowed to imitate rhythm and blues records because they weren't played very much, and I was raised by middle-class people who didn't believe in singing the blues. And I was made to look like Hedy Lamarr and so forth and so on. That's way before your time.
Oh, nobody remembers Hedy Lamarr.
Nobody remembers that. But I think then the girls who began to have the opportunity at that time, because they had finally opened the way for one, they began to put them into the same image too. And so we had a whole decade or so of girls who thought it expedient to imitate me because I was making it, you see.
They say you've been trying to change your image. I don't know what that means.
Well, I think what it means probably is that since Greensboro, as recent as that, and sit-ins, I was able to flee my establishment stereotype because young people had freed me. And I think that since I always have been what I am inside, that I've been able to survive because they really didn't kill anything black in me.
I was, because I remember you were out in, I think, Las Vegas, and you beat that guy bloody with your shoe.
Yeah, well, I drew a little blood. It was in Los Angeles.
It was in Los Angeles.
That probably was the first time I felt less lonely. By the isolation that was imposed upon me by very nature of its definitive isolation from my own people, from white people, this middle thing that I was in, had kept me very much alone spiritually too. And I got insulted. I had frequently done so, but I hadn't done it at a place where there were a couple of reporters around. And the guy made me mad, and I struck him violently, because I am violent in a way.
You trying to say violence purges the soul?
No, he just made me mad, and sometimes your madness just mounts into, you know, beautiful madness. And I struck him, and I got tons of mail and letters and telegrams from black people who said, you know, hey, thank you, and how wonderful, and all. I said, my God, I'm not alone, and that was in the 50s. I had lived a long time without that feeling. And there are so many young black people now who I see doing things that are revolutionizing me and the world.
Let me sort of ask a question that might be difficult. Like you grew up with, but professionally with Billie Holiday and Dinah Washington.
Yes.
And you survived, and they didn't. Do you? I'm sort of asking, I guess, to respond to that. Like, why? Can you?
I don't know. I didn't want anybody to kill me. I think I didn't want them to destroy me. I mean, let's say I won't say hate because it's very bad, and I've not allowed myself until recently to love and open myself up to love. I was strengthened by my active disinvolvement, hidden, but it kept me surviving, and I think my background, my people must have. I find great migrations made by my great-great-grandmother on both sides that I didn't know anything about until I was in my 40s, and they survived, and it must be in us.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that, you see, I loved Billie very much, and I loved Dinah, and they were both very gentle women to me. They were very good to me when I was starting. And I think I began to know about the sisterhood during those years.
You had a personal tragedy. Your father died, and then your son.
Yes, this past 6 months I've lost my father and my son, and they were both black men that I was denied until I was along in my years. My father and my mother separated when I was 3, and my son was taken from me when he was 3. But I got to know them when I was older, and they really fulfilled a great deal.
When you got ready to marry Lenny Hayden, one of the statements that you made was that you didn't have the strength to marry a black man. How would you?
I had married first a black man, and I wasn't a big enough woman to help him. I married him because I had nobody. I ran away from life as a chorus girl at 16, and a stepfather who was white that I didn't understand. And then I found out how difficult it was for a black man to live at that time and to exist. And I failed him. I didn't know, I didn't have enough consolation in myself because I'd never had it to give to him.
What do you think about the Angela Davis case? What do you think about Angela?
I think that I hate to see another one about my young women being destroyed.
When Angela was arrested, they had a thing uptown. Her mother came, her sister was up there. And one of the parents at 13, I believe, one of the young ladies, was saying, you know, they can say Angela is beautiful, and they can say she's brilliant, but she's right in the same women's detention home that the sisters that walked the street are in.
What I'm so afraid of is this actually is a calculated, genocidal move in many instances, because the threat of this kind of strength that these young people have, which may not always be comparable to the kind that our ancestors had, is so positive and so fearless that it frightens people. And I don't want to see this continue, but sometimes I worry that it's a concentrated, thought-out effort to not have a young generation so strong and so beautiful.
if someone don't help me, I surely will die. Trouble, trouble, I'm troubled in mind. Oh, trouble, trouble, trouble never leaves me behind. If someone don't help me, I surely will die. I will die. I'll die.
I don't think, maybe all the sisters don't know what
No.
K building is.
Well, K building is the building up in Harlem Hospital that was taken over by community people, I for one. And first time it ever was done, we're still fighting to keep control. But like we tell the doctors, we do our thing or don't be no thing. We blow it up. I mean that. I don't care if the CIA listed, blow it up, because it has to be a change. And people have to stand up, especially black people, for their principles. Because, other groups don't think that we have too many principles, that it's nothing really that we want, that we think is worth fighting for. We can always go over in Vietnam and kill somebody damn near look like us. But we never, have banned our resources and our dreams to actually get something constructive. We're always fighting somebody else's wars, fighting for somebody else's ideals. We never really want to fight for ourselves. That's why, as the sister was saying, the K building meant so much. This was something for our people, something we believed in, to the extent that we would have died right there. And for me, myself, it's the first time I ever had anything that meant that much to me.
Those were drug addicts who wanted.
Well, we opened it mostly because we took it. We had, just like you said, we went here, we went there, asking everybody, could we get facilities for adolescents? And every day you always heard, I'll call you, don't call me. So then one rainy evening we decided to go up there and take 2 floors that were badly needed in a community of 150,000 addicts. Because as the sisters here say, you get tired of watching your people die. So we took it. But we had a principle, this is what I'm saying. The principle is still there, and every day we don't relax. We keep right on so we can get it perfect. At least we're able, like she said, to save the children. And this is what we have to do. You have to save the children in order to save the race.
I want to say something that some of you may disagree with, and that is, I don't think you can just work for black children. I think that the minute you start working on the problems of the black child, you find that you have to be concerned about all children, don't you? I mean, if you're working on drugs...
Well, don't ask me that. I will never refuse any human being to come in there, but I'm concerned about mine, because you can't go, up in the Bronx when you haven't even cleaned up. I can't clean up. If I can't clean up my house, in other words, how the hell am I going to clean up yours? I got to clean up mine first, just like this sister say. Then clean up yours. Because, like, drugs with us has been in our community for 25 or 30 years. Nobody really ever cared. We have kids up there 13 years old, been on drugs 2.5 years. And the Board of Education haven't even missed them out of school. Like we say, they freed us 300 and some years ago, turned around 50 years later and gave us dope. So I don't really go for all of that about going across the river and doing something. I think we should stay on this side, try to do what we have to do for each other.
I don't think that we can work just on our own problems unless we are concerned about the total society. And as a matter of fact, unless we go across the river too, and we're concerned about a lot of things happening in the world. This is a very small planet. And we feel the impact of these forces. I don't think that we can concentrate just on what you call the black nation, so long as we exist in America, which is a sick society. Don't
Ms.
you think we have
Fairfax?
to work on
No, I don't.
on
You know,
that?
I really...
I just
no,
wanted
I
to define this
understand.
as a difference of
I
opinion
appreciate
among-
everything you're saying, but
Yeah.
quite often when people do not understand, they cannot relate. And I don't really think you understand what's going on in black communities.
Yeah.
I think you're very comfortable. I mean, please,
Go ahead.
I think you're very comfortable sitting in your office and trying to be very community oriented from your desk and in your plush air conditioned place.
It's not very
No, but you have to get, I would like to see your office moved to a rat infested
Yeah.
apartment.
Well, see, I live in one of them roach-infested
Right, yeah, we've all known what it is.
No, but I live there right now. I mean, I live there right now.
But my point is you have to understand how the system operates in order to take it over and to make it more responsive to
Ms.
you. Now, there are
Fairfax, I
ways
know how it
of, and I think there are ways of turning programs around. I think
know
all of
how
you
it
are
works.
involved
Ms.
in them.
Fairfax, you
Take a
know.
walk.
Really.
Pardon?
Take a ride. I mean, really through Harlem. Even if you live there, go at 114th Street and 8th Avenue, then curve all up through there. You'll see how the system works.
Indeed.
You will see how the system works. And when we seen, professional people of our own race starts to work with that system, then we know, where it's coming from. And a lot of us black people have to begin to learn that we are black, and that man will always look at us just as that. Regardless of how much he might eat with us and pat us on our back, he still look at us for just what we are.
This little light of mine, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. I'm gonna let it shine so bright, let it shine. This little light of mine will burn so bright that not only my people, but all people will see it burn. Burn, baby, burn.
Shrine of the Black Madonna here in Detroit is an interesting church for many reasons. First of all, it has a Black Madonna. Secondly, it celebrates a black theology. And third, it celebrates holidays in an interesting way, a black way, as it should be. Case in point, Women's Day, October 25th. Here at the shrine, the theme was New Directions for Black Women in the Liberation Struggle.
Traditionally in black churches, there's a Women's Day, which has no relevance to anything that's important to black people. It's just a fundraising activity by black churches where women go out and try to raise as much money as they can. We are concerned with making the Women's Day a festival which symbolizes, points out, highlights the importance of black women to the church and to the total liberation struggle.
What time is it? Then let the black nation rise. Then let the black nation rise.
Let the black nation rise. What I'm going to say will be in two parts. The first part will be talking about black women in the struggle, and it's called Queens of the Universe, because black women be queens. If they could just see their beauty, you see. We black women have been called many things: foxes, matriarchs, sapphires, sisters, and recently queens. I would say that black women have been a combination of all them words, because if we examine our past history at one time or another, we've had to be like them words be saying. But today, there are some words we can discard. There be some we must discard for our own survival, for our own sanity, for the contributions we must make to our emerging black nation, and we must move to as the only queens of this universe to sustain, keep our sanity in this insane, messed up, die-conscious, pill-taking, masochistic, misan-orientated society gots to be dealt with. 'Cause that's us. You all hear me? Us. Black women, the only queens of this universe. Even though we be stepping unqueenly sometimes, like it ain't easy being a queen in this unrighteous world full of Miss Anns and Mr. Anns, but we steady trying.
Women have been traditionally, historically, tremendously important to any oppressed people in the sense of making it possible for an oppressed people to survive, making it possible for them to pass on some of the traditions and culture of a people when the existence of a man was seriously threatened from day to day and from week to week and month to month. And so really for that reason we call the church the Shrine of the Black Madonna to symbolize not only the religious significance of Mary as the mother of Jesus, but the significance of all black women and the generations of struggle and sacrifice that black women have made in making it possible for black people to survive and come to this day. It's also important that we realize that in this day the role of black women has changed because we're much more clear about what the liberation struggle is all about, and black women have the task now of creating young black people, black children and black adults who can participate in a liberation struggle that seeks for independence and for freedom and for community control and the things which are important to people who are seriously engaged in liberation.
Someone speaks of revolution, we don't have to say that revolution, what are we doing now trying to change things? We didn't just wait until now to start trying to change things.
That evening, the women put together a festival that spoke to the church members about blackness and history of black revolution. Recognition was awarded the most interesting presentations, and a soul food dinner was served. A black celebration for Women's Day and a black church, the Shrine of the Black Madonna. This is George Martin in Detroit for Black Journal.
Ladybird. Ladybird, ladybird, fly away home. Your house is on fire and raps on the phone.
Can I ask you one question? You don't have to answer it. recently a white show asked you to give them 90 minutes. Why did you turn that down?
I turned it down because in the first place I'd rather do it on my own show if I had one, if we had one. And I didn't feel like giving my life to someone that I don't feel very close to.
I want to ask you a question. What's the sisterhood? What do you
Well, I wouldn't be so crude as to call it a black mafia, but I would say, no, I would say anybody that has a feeling of clan and not KK, but relativeness and familyness is what my sisterhood means.
Yeah, well, what,
I'm afraid that because I didn't have one of my own, I've latched onto the one I'm entitled to.
You never had a sister?
Well, I didn't have sisters or brothers or my mom and papa, you know, and so I have you all.
Where do you think you're going? You know?
Well, I'm still a little numb at the moment from the past 6 months, but I feel adventuresome. I don't think I'm just going to stop, sit down. I don't necessarily mean singing or. I'm not a lecturer. I'm not a writer. I'm not a. I'm just. I guess I'm a performer. But I feel creative. I feel I need to be around people. I like it now. And I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm not going to stop.
There are many, many things that we can do if we look at ourselves seriously as a nation and not get preoccupied with the goings-on of someone else and get preoccupied with what we're doing. You know, there are resources in the black community. We should use those resources, and we should move around, you know, in such a way as though we were seriously thinking about having a nation.
I agree.
And seriously, and not just say it because it sounds good, or say it because it is hip, because nationalism is not faddism. And I think that a lot of people are identifying with different things because it is hip to identify with certain things, but it is hipper to understand that we are slaves and we got to be free. And it's even hipper to work at our, you know, our freedom, national liberation for black people.
But what about the sisters who don't agree with you? Then who has to deal with them?
Well, it's not about agreeing with me.
It's about doing.
It's not agreeing about it.
No, they will just say, I don't agree. It is, you know,
Well,
we just have that, you know, she could say, I don't agree with you, you know.
Right.
My man won't let me do that. I don't want to do that. And what will happen to these people?
I'm not going to preoccupy myself in terms of what will happen to them because I know that more people are preoccupied with freedom. No one wants to be a slave.
But are we talking about a black nation? I'm talking about black people who haven't quite gotten the mind thing together. So we have to preoccupy our minds.
I think that because all black people don't say they're nationalists, and because all black people don't, you know, wear braids or naturals and traditional clothes, don't mean they're not nationalists now. Now, they're nationalists, but they just don't use the word. Because no one wants to be a slave. And there's no black person on this planet who will disagree with freedom. So, like, I don't know whether, you know, we can consider that or not.
What you're saying is then that it's that many people will be working on things from different perspectives. Be working on the problems of freedom from in different ways.
Exactly. Sure, they'll work on, people work at the level they can understand. Because they don't understand certain levels does not mean that they're not nationalistic. It just means they're not conscious enough to understand certain levels of what's going on. But that is your job. If you were conscious enough to understand it, then it is your job to make sure that those who understand will understand too. And that is the job of, you know, the conscious nationalist. And Imam always says that if you're a nationalist and you're talking bad about someone else and you're not doing anything to, you know, to get them where you think they should be, then it's you. Because you're that hip, then you should be hip enough to change them.
Painters, why do you always paint white virgins? Don't you know there are beautiful black angels in heaven also? Painters, paint beautiful black angels. Pintar, nacido en mi tierra, con el pincel extranjero. Pintor que sigues el rumbo de tantos pintores viejos. Aunque la Virgen sea blanca, píntame anhelitos negros que también se van al cielo. Todos los negritos buenos.
I used to wonder who I'd be. When I was a little girl in Indianapolis, sitting on doctors' porches with post-on pre-debs, wondering would my aunt drag me to church Sunday, I was meaningless, and I wondered if life would give me a chance to mean. I found a new life in the withdrawal from all things not like my image. When I was a teenager, I used to sit on front porch steps, conversing the gym teacher's son with embryonic eyes about the essential essence of the universe, recognizing the basic powerlessness of me. But then I went to college, where I learned that just because everything I was unreal, I could be real, and not just real through withdrawal into emotional crosshairs or colored bourgeois intellectual pretensions, but from involvement with things approaching reality, I could possibly have a life. So catatonic emotions and time-wasting sex games were replaced with functioning commitments to logic and necessity, and the gray area was slowly darkened into a black thing. For a while, progress was made, along with a certain degree of happiness, because I wrote a book and found a love and organized a theater and even gave some lessons, some lectures on black history, and began to believe all good people could get together and win without bloodshed. Then Hammarskjöld was killed, and Lumumba was killed, and Diem was killed, and Kennedy was killed, and Malcolm was killed, and Evers was killed, and Swerner, Cheney, and Goodman were killed, and Louisio was killed, and Stokely fled the country, and Leroy was arrested, and Rapp was arrested, and Pollard, Thompson, and Cooper were killed, and King was killed, and Kennedy was killed. And sometimes I wonder why I didn't become a debutante, sitting on doctors' porches, going to church all the time, wondering, is my eye makeup on straight? Or withdrawn, discoursing on the stars and the moon, instead of a for real black person who must now feel and inflict pain.
Pintar, si pintas con amor, porque desprecias su color, si sabes que en el cielo también los quiere Dios. Pintar de santos, de alcoba, si tienes alma en el cuerpo, porque al pintor corren tus cuadros. Te olvidaste de los negros. Siempre que pintas en iglesias, pintas anhelitos